Hi, I'm Gary Gumble, and I want to start this video by establishing right from the start the absolute importance of drawing. Since Father's Day was coming up when I was filming this, I'll use dear old Dad as my example. Now, if you had decided to draw or paint your family as a present for Father's Day, you'd want to make sure that all the parts of each member of your family were the right size, the right shape, and in the right place. Because if you didn't get their proportions correct, no amount of paint would make them look right. So unless your family members were fans of Picasso, your gift might not get an enthusiastic reception. Well, whether you're using a pencil or a paintbrush, being able to draw your subject well is the basis of all realistic art. The problem for all of us is how to develop our drawing skills while using the 5 core elements of successful art and doing that as simply and as easily as possible. Now, this whole problem of simplifying every aspect of art is something I've focused on for many years. It started during the 18 years I was an illustrator because deadlines were always short for most assignments. So I always looked for ways to do art faster and easier and still produce quality work. For instance, to draw something in what is called mechanical perspective, you need to establish a horizon line and vanishing points and other stuff I won't go into. Well, unless you are drawing something quite small, it requires a much larger table than I've ever needed. So I developed a very simple way to draw in perspective without you having to know all the ins and outs of mechanical perspective. And I'll show you that simple method a little later. Right now, I want to emphasize the word simple. Whatever subject you're going to draw, whether it be a man or a muskox, the best way to start is simply. Start with large, simple shapes first, and when you have the proportions correct, then start putting in more details. Now, say you wanted to draw or paint your father's face. You would start by drawing a simple egg shape for the head. Then draw a guideline that represents the middle of the face. The eyes are about halfway between the top of the head and the chin. Draw a line there. The bottom of the nose is about halfway between the eyes and the chin. The mouth is about 1/3 of the distance from the bottom of the nose to the chin. The ear is generally between the eyebrow and the bottom of the nose. By working simply and drawing light guidelines, you get the size, shape, and proportions the way you want them before you start getting into details. If you get into details too soon and find later on that your proportions aren't quite right, you are going to be really reluctant to go back and correct what is wrong. The whole point of getting your proportions correct in the beginning is so you can just have fun unleashing your creativity and produce interesting art. And one way you make sure that you get your overall proportions right is by the age-old method of visually measuring. Just as I am measuring one of the gondolas on the Seattle's Great Wheel, one of the largest Ferris wheels in the United States, you can use a pencil to find the overall proportions of your subject. Now, by overall proportions, I mean how high is it compared to its length? How long is one part of it compared to the rest? For instance, on this muskox, I would want to measure to find out how long the body is compared with its height at the shoulder, and then mark those boundaries. Then I begin to draw the muskox with very simple shapes first. When you get the simple shapes the way you want them, you can begin to refine your lines by starting to put in more of the muskox's features. Now, trying to put in smaller details by measuring can be kind of tedious. So I developed a system for drawing them based on what I've already drawn and I know is correct. For instance, once I locate the musk ox's horns, I see the eye is right below where those horns join. Its forehead is about even with its eye. Its mouth is straight down from its forehead. I continue like that until I've completed the drawing. Now, whatever you're drawing or painting, you always want to start as simply as possible, get your proportions correct, and then gradually add the details you need. In fact, you want to make everything in art as simple and easy as possible. Especially in your beginning years, it is so easy to make things much more complicated than they need to be. And showing you the ways to simplify art and use much more of your creativity are two of my 3 biggest goals here at beginningartist.com. Now, I'm well aware I can't cover everything you'd like to know in these short videos. I'm sure you've got questions about things I've covered in these videos so far, and you may have questions about things you're struggling with right now. But I think I've got a way for you to learn many more of the simple methods I've developed through more than 40 years in art. And I'll tell you more about that in the next video. Right now, I want to show you one more of the ways I've developed to make drawing simpler and easier. If you've ever tried to draw something in perspective, like this Irish cottage, you know it can be hard to get the various angles to look right. Well, I developed an easy way around that, and all it takes is a piece of tracing paper. Lay the tracing paper over your photograph, find a vertical edge on this cottage and draw that edge to your tracing paper. Then trace the various angles you want to draw. Now, after you've drawn the walls of the cottage, just extend that same edge that you traced in the photograph. Then lay the tracing paper over the drawing, making sure the line on the tracing paper and the edge of the wall you extended on your drawing line up. Now you can slide the tracing paper up to where you want the top of the roof to be, draw that line, then slide it down to where you want the bottom edge of the roof to be, and so on for all the other angles. This way, you've quickly, easily, and accurately drawn the angles that were giving you trouble. Now you can just use your creativity to make this scene more interesting than it really is. Now, in the last video, I'll show you how to simplify and start getting better control of the last of the 5 crucial elements of successful art: color. So between now and then, be thinking about the questions you'd like to ask me about color or any of the other core elements I've covered so far.